Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and we are going to get right on into a review of my thoughts about the September pen and ink combination. So going back to my currently inked, which is right here, let me just move. So this stack right here, I have a Hobonichi Cousin, I have a Hobonichi 5-year, and I have a Hobonichi Day Free. So I will be popping in and out of there throughout this video to look at some writing samples and such. So my September 2023, and let me take out the rest of my pens. I am still slightly under the weather and I'm just super over it. I started to get very frustrated today with not feeling well. So apologies if my mood is a little down, but I'm tired of being under the weather and tired. All right, so let me just get my Hobonichi Cousin opened up, and so I have this right here, which is what I did on camera when I did my September currently inked, and then I have this, which is what I did in preparation for the camera work. And this is on the monthly page in my Hobonichi Cousin. So first and foremost, I used, which I think I've used this every month since I received it in December. It was a Christmas gift this past year, but Pelikan M400 with an extra fine nib. And this is inked up with Birmingham Pen Company Distressed Leather. Now, I have said this most months. I love this pen. And I think it was last month. I had it inked up with Coliseum, and I think in July I had it inked up with Coliseum. It took me a while to get through that one because it was a light ink. It wasn't my favorite ink. And so going into this month, I will tell you, I loved the Birmingham Pen Company Distressed Leather. So let's pull this open, and right here is a lovely example of Birmingham Pen Company Distressed Leather. Has beautiful shading, and it is a well lubricated ink, so it comes out wet, which it should in a Pelikan because that is a wet writer. But it was really enjoyable to write with, and as I went on throughout the month, I ended up taking a suggestion from a viewer and using contrasting colors. And so this was a really interesting example of kind of the difference of writing with distressed leather versus being really intentional in every letter that I did. And you can see the shading when I'm doing cursive, and I'm not, I mean, I pick up my pen when I do cursive, but you can see some of the letters that I wrote consecutively. So for example, actually in this particular cursive word, it looks like I really did not pick up my pen at all until I did the cross on the T. Looking down at the word charcuterie, the bottom of the letters are really saturated. The top of the letters are much lighter. So it's almost like it does an ombre effect, which is just super cool. So I consistently rate, little dog hair, so sorry. I consistently rate this as a really comfortable pen to write with. The ink flow is really good. I have not put a shimmer in this, but there's no hard starts. There's no skipping. It's a very consistent writer. It's a wet writer. But this ink was a really good combination for this pen. So really thoroughly enjoyed this. That was a good pairing. Next up, we have Esterbrook SD in Sea Glass, and this has a fine nib. And this was inked up with Birmingham Pen Company Antique Sepia. And I'm gonna try, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but let me go ahead and zoom in. So this is kind of a greenish, brownish color with a little bit of kind of pink underlying in there. But when it first goes down, and this is almost empty, it looks more green. And as it dries, the brown comes through. So I really loved that I paired it with this particular pen because it matched the pen body as I was originally writing, and then it dried to this really nice brownish color. So let me grab a writing sample from this one. So here's an example of that. And I paired, my accent color was a brown because to me this, when you quickly glance at it, it's like a sandy brown. But when you really look closer, that's where you start to see the greens and the pinks in there. Let's see, I think I have another, here's another. And this one really, you can see that brown, but in this smudge here, that's where you can start to see the underlying pink that's in there and the green. So I happen to take my finger and smudge it, and you can see the green right here and the kind of the trails of the ink, but then underneath where the ink was smudged off, it's pink. It's very fascinating. So as usual, Birmingham Pen Company, you make an excellent ink. It's very complex. It writes really well. This was very enjoyable to write with throughout the month, and I just wrapped up doing a weekly with this, and I mean there's barely any ink left. So today is the 26th, and it had a good run this month. I also did my weekly last week, was with the Esterbrook SD and Sea Glass with Birmingham Pen Company Antique Sepia. And I do think I did do a week with the distressed leather, which again, you can see the beautiful shading in the word Plymouth or wine and cigar. Again, when I'm writing in cursive, it's a much lighter color than when I'm writing, I think it's script. But I mean, and when I'm writing all the numbers down here, the shading is just phenomenal. I love it so much. Now, if I were to compare these two Birmingham Pen Company inks, Distressed Leather is going to take the win hands down. Antique Sepia is gorgeous. Distressed Leather is absolutely gorgeous. I'm actually really intrigued to see the Antique Sepia in another nib size. So that'll be another project to check out. All right, so my next one is Lami Studio. And this is, I think the colorway is called dark brown, and it has a fine nib, and it's got that Lami nib to it. Now, what I have come to realize is Lami is not my favorite brand. They're good quality. It is an excellent quality pen. This price point, I think, was $79 or $89. I may have gotten it on sale a little bit, so it may have been a little bit less than that, but this was Manda made me do it. Manda B reviewed this pen. It was gorgeous. I knew I wasn't a huge fan of the Lami Safari or Lami Vista or Lami All-Star, but I wanted to give this model a try. And for me, the nib is just too stiff. This is a very steel nib. There's really no give to it, but it's a really sturdy nib. And so if you want a really sturdy nib, this is gonna be your pen to get. And it's so beautiful. This is a sharp looking pen. It looks really professional. So there's I can say a lot of good things about this pen, but it's not my favorite to write in. Now, this pen I have been using, and I moved the ink up, so it's maybe about half of the converter left. But I have been using this pen and ink combination in my Hobonichi 5-year, and I have not yet written in my cousin with it. So that's why I brought this up. So one of the things that I noticed about this pen, and if you right here on September 1st, so the first day I was using it, and then compare that with September 8th. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at my camera. So you can definitely see the difference. This is much more saturated, it's much wetter. This is drier. And so I ended up, that's where I opened up the cartridge converter, or I guess the back of the pen, and I twisted the cartridge converter to push the ink on up, and I was able to get it writing wet again. And so I did that a couple of times throughout the month. So for that reason, here's the entry where I did it. So you can see it got really light, and my patient started to wear at that point. So I opened up the back of the pen, I screwed the cartridge converter, and lo and behold, here comes the beautiful color that I got this ink to be. I wanted it to be this color, not this lighter color. So I would say this pen may not belong in my collection. I've tried it with a couple different inks. I have not been really drawn to writing with this pen. It's so, it's so beautiful. So I would love for it to have a loving home. I'm just not sure that I'm it. So I'm starting to think about that. I think if I were to put maybe a basic black ink in this and it just became an everyday writer, I would likely be more satisfied. But when I'm trying to get shading properties out of an ink, this is not necessarily the nib that is going to do that for me. So that's the Lami Studio. Next up, I have Narwhal or Novar Nautilus, the Voyager series, and it has it's the Tromso, which is Northern Lights. And this was inked up with another Birmingham pen company. This is Armadillo. And Armadillo is this nice purple that has a little grayish hint to it, a little bit of pink hue to it. So again, a lovely Birmingham pen company ink. I really love my Narwhals. Love them. Love writing with them. They are a little on the wetter side, not as wet as the Pelikan, but a little on the wetter side. And this ink is just a lot of fun to write with. I actually am using it for my weekly this week. It reminds me a lot of Sailor Ink Studio 123. And I think I might need to have both of those inked up one month so I can do a really good comparison, and maybe put them both in a Narwhal pen, because that would be an equal, what's the word? I am tired. Comparison. Thank you. If you were yelling it, I apparently heard it, so thank you so much. Yeah, so here's a journal entry that I use the Narwhal Tromso. If you have not seen my ink, pen and ink review videos or done any of my planning videos, I do note right up here what pen I'm using, and that way I can cross-reference going to the beginning of the month, and I can look here to see what it's inked up with in case I forgot. Here's another spread that has this pen and ink combination. So So it is a light color, but it has all this beautiful shading and chromo shading to it that I just really love writing with. And even when doing lettering at the top where I'm writing nice and slow, that's where that shading really pops. I find the Narwhal pens to be really comfortable for my hand, and everyone's hand is a different size. Everyone holds their pen differently, but this little lip here, my fingers rest there perfectly. It's a good length. It's not meant to be capped. I really love the rose gold accents when I'm doing my journaling at night, and I have a book light clipped onto my iPad, and right now I'm rewatching Grey's Anatomy for the, I don't know, 5th time. So I have that playing as a background noise and the book light clipped on the iPad, shining right down on my paper. And I just love writing with this, and I love seeing the book light catch the kind of abalone color here. And I think this is a Jonathan Brooks blank that was used for this particular Voyager limited edition pen for Narwhal. So it's a really nice experience, and it's really helped me grow to appreciate this pen. You can go back and look. When I originally got this is not the original pen that I got. The one that I got, this piece came unscrewed and I couldn't figure out how to screw it back together, so it was replaced, and this is the replacement pen. Then next up, this was a carryover from August. This is a birthday gift from my husband and my son. It's the Esterbrook SD in Petrified Forest with gold accents, and this has an extra fine nib. And there's just something about the way that this nib writes. It has this lovely amount of feedback to it. It's not scratchy, but it is feedback. And even though this is an extra fine pen, it was inked up with a shimmer ink, Auto Hut Gold Dust, which is this really lovely corally red color with gold shimmer. And it never once clogged, never once hard start. Did I have a hard start? It was a really, really, really lovely combination. And I'm gonna have a hard time moving away from that combination because it just is so perfect. My husband did an excellent job with this. Now looking at a writing sample. So I did use this at the end of the month in August, and because I had it inked up in August, I actually didn't use it too much. That might have actually been, is that it for my journaling? That was it for my journaling. But I did use it in this weekly spread right here. I was sitting outside on my deck journaling and the rain started coming down. So that's where some of these splotches are from. Is it rained, I closed my book, I went inside. And so what had been journaled here, splotched over here, but that's okay. I'm okay with it, kind of. But this was really, really, really pretty. And the shimmer is just really, really lovely. Look at that gold shimmer. So this is likely a pen and ink combination that you may see next month, just because it is so beautiful. So I really enjoyed that pen and that ink. Next up, oh, yep, sorry, just had a moment. Next up, I have my replacement Galen Leather Co. and Novar collaboration, and this is in the Rose Gold Demonstrator. I ordered this one with a medium nib because I have all fines in my other Novelars and wanted to try this in a medium nib. And I inked this up with Atlas Stationer's and Ferris Wheel Press collaboration Atlas Iron Ore. Because this has such a large ink capacity, I like putting a black or black adjacent ink in it. And so I was able to do that. This will be carrying over into next month because it still has a good amount of ink in it. Part of it is that it's coating the barrel, but I think the ink is somewhere around here. So I would definitely get through this next month. Now looking at some writing samples. So here is a spread that I used, this Galen leather and Narwhal collaboration pen. And actually when I look at this, here's another spread. Trying to find, oh, this is a good comparison. So when I look at this medium versus this fine, I'll be honest, I don't see a difference. You let me know if you see a difference. I personally do not. So I don't find that the medium on this particular nib is any wetter or any more of a fire hose than the fine. So that's mildly disappointing. However, when I do get to a pen show again, which may not be until next September, I would like to perhaps take this and get a custom grind, but we'll see. So I really like this pen. It does have the same body style as the Tromso, so it has a little lip right there. Again, it fits my hand really well, so I do like this pen. And then the last one that I had inked up at the beginning of September was another carryover from the month before, because this was one of my birthday gifts. And so this is the Platinum Sentry 3776 with a fine nib. Oh gosh, I am tired. I'm so sorry. I probably will need to go to bed very early tonight. This is inked up with Warringal Mad Hatter, which is this really nice grayish green. And I actually was thinking that, or was calling it a sage green, and then I was watching a YouTube video, perhaps by Daisy Doodles. I might be getting that name wrong. Apologies if I am. But she was doing a ink exploration of grayish greens, and Warringal Mad Hatter was one of the ones that she explored, and that I immediately pulled out my planner and I looked closely at the ink and was like, yeah, that is great green. How did I not think of that beforehand? So looking at here's a spread where I journaled with the Platinum 3776. Now, because it has a fine nib and it is a Japanese fine, so it is a fine, very fine. This pen and ink combination was a little on the lighter side. I am really interested to see this pen with a darker ink, something that's a little bit more saturated, and I really want to see this ink in a pen that's a little bit wetter. I actually want to see this ink in my Pelikan M400. So that might be coming. Let's see. But I did really love this pen and ink combination, despite it being a little on the lighter side. This pen is just so pleasant to write with. I really did enjoy it. And this is a 14 karat gold nib. And per the recommendation of definitely one viewer, if not multiple, I did put a little bit of washi tape on the cartridge converter, because when the barrel was screwed on, I could hear a clicking inside, and so that was a remedy for that, and it worked. So thank you for the suggestion. I do listen to suggestions. I do take them, as evidenced by this, and as evidenced by using the accent color in my journaling. So this was another great combination. I feel like I give a lot of positive feedback about pens and inks, and maybe some of y'all want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. I am so sorry. And then certainly last but not least, I have my newest pen, and this I purchased secondhand from Charmaine Dulac here on YouTube. And this is the Venu Euphoria, and the colorway is Ice Caramel Latte, which is a Goulet Pens exclusive. I have been having my eye on this pen for quite some time. It's not one that went on sale, but it certainly did go out of stock for periods of time and came back in stock. And I was this close to purchasing it and stumbled across a post that Charmaine was selling hers for $25 less than what it would cost to get it brand new. I am so sorry. Oh, maybe it's allergies. I don't know. But I was very happy to save $25 and did not have to pay for shipping. And I inked this up with Colorverse Coffee Break, which ended up being a really nice match for this pen. However, Coffee Break was not my favorite ink because it took absolutely forever to dry. And it made a mess at times. So here's a journaling spread with the Venu Euphoria and Colorverse Coffee Break. And I was able to do a good job not smudging on these pages because I knew that it took time to dry. So I ended up just leaving it open, which was really nice. That was a strategy that worked out really well. And then, I used this to do the weekly memory keeping. And so you can see that here. There is some good shading with this ink. But again, the dry time really drove me bonkers. And I think, you know what? I think it's in here that has the best example of, yes, right here. So you can see the smudging right here. You can see the transfer over to this page, and some transfer here. In kind of a in the moment, everyday usage model, this ink would just not work for me. It just would not fly. But for journaling, it worked out fine because I was able to give the ink the accommodations that it needed to be successful. I feel really weird talking about a pen and ink needing accommodations. And then because I was close to the end of that cartridge, I did do this spread, which I really love, where I had the Platinum 3776 on this side with the Venu Euphoria for accent color, and then I flopped it and I had the Venu Euphoria with the Platinum 3776 as the accent, and I really loved how that came out. That this was actually really pleasant to do. This pretty much is empty. Yeah, pretty much. I've got it screwed all the way up. And I'm very much looking forward to trying a different ink in this. I did have some occasional hard starts with this, and when doing this journaling entry, I was getting some inconsistent ink flow right around in here. It was starting to get really light, and so I dipped it into the sample vial and wrote the rest of it, and I didn't experience the same hard starts that I was before. So it's either the ink or it's the cartridge. There's something that's not quite the best fit, so I'm gonna figure that out. But I love this pen color. The gold shimmer, the cafe au lait colors are just all really, really lovely. So that's the Venu. Now, I'll get, I guess, a little nasty, little unkind towards my pens right now. So I think my favorite, my absolute favorite, is gonna have to be the Petrified Forest with Auto Hut Gold Dust. Absolute favorite. This was just an absolute joy to write with. I can't wait to ink this up again with the same ink and have that experience again. So this was definitely a favorite. So I'm going to put my favorite here. And maybe I'll even rank them. Ooh, that seems fun. So my next is going to be the Pelikan M400 with distressed leather, followed by, I'll come back to what it's going to be followed by. My least favorite is going to be Lami Studio, inked up with Birmingham Pen Company Sandstone, which I don't even think I said that earlier. Apologies. So that is definitely my least favorite. And I think, here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to somewhat put these as a tie, just because for the Venu Euphoria, I love the pen, didn't love the Colorverse Coffee Break and the Dry Time and the Hard Starts. So I didn't love that. The Galen Leather Co. and Novar collaboration, I loved it, but the medium was not any different than the fine, and I was really hoping for that difference, and found myself thinking about that a lot while I was writing with that pen. All right, so the next I'm going to go with the Platinum 3776 inked up with Mad Hatter. This pen is an absolute joy to write with. It was amazing. The ink was beautiful. Would I like for it to have been a little bit darker and saturated? Sure. But did I love using it? Yes, I did. So I am going to put it third. And then I probably would put the Esterbrook SD with Antique Sepia next, followed very closely by the Novar Tromso Northern Lights with Birmingham Pen Company Armadillo. And I don't know, just the way that my camera is, I can't tell, but it has this lovely kind of teal coming through in the pearl section. Oh, so pretty, so pretty. So I would say these are definitely pen and ink do again combinations, and these are I mean, with the exception of this one, these are pen and ink combinations that are do differently. You try the pen again, but do a different ink. So there's that. And then this pen is just going to take me a moment because I'm so stuck on that I expected a wetter writer. And I was very proud of myself for getting a medium because all my other narwhals are a fine, and I just don't feel like taking that risk really was reinforced or really paid off in the way that I wanted it to. So that is my pen and ink review for September. I am in the process of planning out my pen and inks for for October. I would love your recommendations. Feel free to share them, but there likely will be a little bit of repeat, and then there's a couple of pens that I haven't given any love to for a bit that I want to bring out and give some love to. So without further ado, I am going to sign off and get this uploaded for your enjoyment. Feel free to leave comments about what pens and inks you really enjoyed this past month and what you're thinking for October. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.